Police Department is asking for all of our feedback on what's going well and what might need some improvement.
Last year, the department did see a high number of car break-ins and issues with the same teens committing multiple crimes. Police Chief Mike Koval is joining us this morning to talk about his focus for 2019. Good morning.
Well, good morning. You already took one of my first openers. That's going to be our focus, one of them.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I know you have said in the past that the juvenile justice system needs to change those numbers. Is there a plan to help facilitate that yet?
Well, I think what you see is that there's sort of been a joining of hands of sorts between social services, the juvenile judiciary, our own department, and the practitioners that also have a play. And in that sense, I think that we are working towards seeing those kids that are falling between the cracks, who are not dealing well with programming, or is there a lack of programming, and how can we better respond more nimbly to see how we can be more of assistance to that and preventing more.
I also want to talk a little bit about recent comments by Alder Paul Skidmore. He says the city's not doing enough to keep his district safe with all those issues that we've seen at Trillian Apartments. You had said at a public meeting earlier last year, I guess, that you know, you were talking about evicting some of the problem tenants. Are there any steps to deal with that this new year?
Yes, I think that the 7 tenants had been identified. A couple of them were for non-payment issues and non-behavior, but a few of them have gone to court now, and we've got some initial judgments against them, and so eviction proceedings will be occurring unless there's an appeals process. And so I hope that that will start to mitigate some of the concerns over there on Tree Lane.
Are there other things going on just quickly on Tree Lane that you want to make sure the residents around there know about? Well,
again, the residents, I think, for the most part, are very good people who are trying to make a new start in life, and we want to encourage that. But again, it's, I think, a lot of the concerns we see are from a handful of residents, not to mention the unintended consequences of guests or visitors who are non-compliant. They have no skin in the game, and those are the behaviors that I think are really what's driving the behaviors that we see happening today. So everything from disturbances to fight calls to domestics to stolen cars figuring out there. It has clearly been a problem for us, and we're working with Alder Skidmore to address those.
Covering a lot of ground this morning, Chief, and I wanted to bring up too retention for the department. It was another concern that you brought up last year. What's kind of the scope for you this year? Are there any efforts going on? You know, what do you kind of foresee the problem becoming this year?
Well, lots of times you think that those things can be cyclical, and I hope that's in fact the case here. But we see that we're part of a national narrative in terms of retention and recruitment. So we've got to continue to show people the nobility of service, that if anybody could do this job, anybody would, I suppose. And I think that there's a challenge in being able to respond to these kinds of social service issues and things like that that the police are being asked to do. So we want to look for the right individuals, and it can't be so much an emphasis on the quantity as well as the quality of the people that ultimately take this pledge.
I suppose, though, what does something need to change in order for perhaps, and maybe blame's the wrong word, but the public perception to change as well? I mean, is there, I mean, obviously a very complicated issue here.
Yeah, very. Well, I do think that there's been some sort of toxic issues that have been associated with police. There's a lot of scapegoating, there's a lot of blaming, there's a lot of race baiting, and I think all of that collectively can contribute to a malaise about the nobility of service. And so we can only do what we can do, and that is to try to impress upon people that there's a lot of phenomenal work that can be done at a grassroots level, and be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to remind everyone very quickly about the survey that's out right now to make sure. Yeah, of course, cityofmadison.com/police. Make sure you voice your opinion. That's how your voice can be heard with this survey as far as what the police are doing well and what can be done a little bit better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's the new year, so we have to look at our resolutions.
I was just about to say, is put some new resolutions on the books.
Thanks you very much,
for waking up with
ladies.
us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So if you are one of those people who pays to get yourself and your friends trapped